Welcome back to CityLine. With me in this Zoom culture right now is the Director of Education and Community Engagement for Tacoma Art Museum. I'm talking about Christina Westpheling. And Christina, you have a haircut since I last saw you. Your hair is shorter.
Yes, it was a summer cut. I feel like I needed a change.
I love that. Now, this is the kind of haircut you can do at home, which is really good considering all that we're seeing out there in virtual reality and haircuts.
I know. I feel like I'm getting sucked in a little bit to the desire to dye my hair purple or something crazy, but I'm resisting right now.
Okay, well, because you do work for Tacoma Art Museum, if you did dye your hair purple, it would be okay. So let's talk about, since Tacoma Art Museum has been closed to the public, as all of our museums are, how have things been?
They've been a little crazy, to be honest. One of the things that we value immensely at Tacoma Art Museum is that connection that people have in person with those original works of art. There's something magical about being in the galleries and standing in front of a painting and really engaging in that way. So we've had to pivot in a big way to figure out how do we stay true to our mission of connecting people through art, but in the digital space. So shifting gears in a big way, but it's been fun.
It's always a challenge to redefine intimacy in these times, isn't it?
Absolutely. Lots of Zoom calls.
Yeah, so speaking of that, what online resources does Tacoma Art Museum have?
Tacoma Art Museum for the past several years has actually been putting its permanent collection online into something we call e-museum. So we received a grant a few years ago from the Institute of Museum and Library Sciences to kind of kickstart that project. So by now we've got about 70% of our collection is digitized and online. So anybody can browse around through it. In fact, before we hopped on this call, I was looking at some drawings in the collection. So this has been a wonderful opportunity for us to really shine a big spotlight on that resource, which a lot of folks just haven't known that we've had.
I love that. You know, I was on it last night before I went to bed. I'm trying to be ever vigilant about what I look at before I go to bed, given that I think that everybody's sleep schedule is kind of off. But there is nothing more soothing than going through Tacoma Art Museum online. And I don't have to shush anybody. So it's really nice. I'm liking this.
Yeah, it's been really wonderful.
It is. I mean, I have to tell you, it's my dream come true to have a whole museum to myself.
Absolutely, and this is your chance.
It is. You have also launched something called TAM at Home. Can you tell me more about this?
So this is our series focused largely on supporting families and young learners. We know that all of our kids are out of school right now, so parents and caregivers are trying to figure out, how do I put on the teacher hat in a big way? So we've been doing a series of art activity videos connected to works of art in our permanent collection. So families are invited to make things like emotion sculptures. So talking about our emotions is really important during this time. So figuring out how to talk about when you're excited or when you're sad or frustrated. So things like that, or something a little more traditional, like some printmaking. So easy projects that families can do at home with materials that they probably already have around their house.
I love that. And that kind of ties into one of my next questions, because art is so feeling for me. When I say I wanted an art museum to myself, it's because I don't want people to see me jump up and down and scream, and conversely cry, because art moves us and it moves me in that way. There has been a huge new needs in our community with this crisis. And so let's talk about how Tacoma Art Museum has helped.
We're doing a few different things. So as I mentioned, we're really committed to our mission of connecting people through art. So we've been experimenting with a few different ways to have conversations about works of art online. So you can join us on Tuesday evenings, so tonight, for special moderated conversations on Facebook about works of art. And we're doing deep dives, what we're calling slow looking at works of art on Instagram as well. Just different ways for people to maybe slow down kind of the news onslaught that they're getting and spend some time with a work of art. So we're kind of staying in that space, but we're also answering the call from our communities about what some of their needs are. We know our healthcare providers are in dire need of personal protective equipment. And an art museum actually is pretty well stocked with those kinds of things to help us with exhibition, installation, and conservation projects. So we were able to raid our closet and actually donate 400 pairs of gloves to Multicare, which we were really proud to be able to do.
That is incredible. 400 pairs of gloves to Multicare. We can't do enough for our first responders. And I have to tell you, gloves from a museum, I didn't make that connection just until you said it. So is it normal for a museum to have 400 pairs of gloves to donate?
Absolutely. So we're joining museums all across the country and the world who are looking in their cabinets and their store cupboards and saying, what do we have in stock, and how can we support our first responders who are really on the front lines of this thing? It's an easy thing for us to be able to do.
I love that. I love those unique and unexpected ways for us to emotionally stay connected to each other. Speaking of that, you, my dear Miss Christina, what are you looking forward to the most when that museum opens up again?
I cannot wait to get back into the galleries and have conversations with people about works of art. It's my very favorite thing in the whole wide world. And I knew that about myself, but I didn't really know how much I would miss it. Not being able to be in the museum for a whole month, I really relied on being able to pop into the galleries to spend some time with a painting. And I know that's true for so many people in our community.
Yeah, it relieves such a sense of, well, it relieves stress first and foremost. At least I'm speaking for myself, to be able to look at a painting and step inside of it, but then also to swim around in the memory that it creates. Whether I saw, my first Monet at the Musée d'Orsay when I was 33, and going back in time, all of that is so important when we're standing in front of or digitally viewing some amazing works of art. Now, in late February, Tacoma Art Museum opened up an exhibition that has some strong connections to today's reality. Tell us about that.
So this exhibition opened about a month or so before kind of everything started to shut down. It's called Forgotten Stories, and it's looking at Northwest public art from the 1930s. So these were works of art that were created by artists in the Northwest who were funded by the federal government during the Great Depression as a way for the government to inject some money into the economy and make sure that artists got paid to do what they do best. So we knew that this was a timely exhibition. It was a real passion project for our curator, Margaret, but we didn't anticipate how timely it would be. I know we're having lots of conversations about funding for the arts and how the government can support us all in this time. And I think the WPA art projects are a great example of how funding the arts can really make a difference.
Oh, it's huge, because the arts tell about our lives, our hearts, our stories. I mean, they are our handrail during times like this. The arts and culture is a huge point of pride for Tacoma residents. And I know that I don't want to see, in conversations I've had, have also echoed this, any of our beloved organizations struggling to reopen. How is this, from your point of view, in terms of the arts community engaging in crisis funding?
I won't lie to you, Amanda. It's tough out there for arts organizations. It's hard for everybody right now, but arts organizations are also taking a hit. We're taking serious losses in earned revenue, and funding opportunities are shifting to other areas right now that might be greater kind of acute needs in our community. But that means we're left in a little bit of a lurch. So I'm incredibly grateful for folks who are doing advocacy on the federal level through Americans for the Arts and the American Alliance of Museums, making sure that funding for the NEA and the NEH get included in funding packages that supports folks right here in Tacoma. I'm also incredibly grateful for organizations like ArtsWA, the Washington State Arts Commission, who make sure that that funding gets distributed all across the state, as well as our local Office of Arts and Cultural Vitality, headed up by the indomitable Amy McBride. So they are doing phenomenal work advocating right here in Tacoma to make sure that our arts organizations stay here and that they thrive.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. And boy, let me tell you, Amy is everywhere these days. And I don't think she's sleeping much, but I don't think she would have it any other way in terms of what's in her heart right now. You know, speaking of what was in your heart, I know that Tacoma Art Museum's spring luncheon was scheduled for April 29th. I had the privilege, and I still hope I do, of emceeing that luncheon. So what are your plans for that event?
So while we are hoping that we can count on some federal funding to get us through this sticky period, we of course always rely on funding from individual donors and our members. They're really the kind of core bedrock of our institution. So the spring luncheon isn't going anywhere. We're going to be shifting it a little bit into the summer zone, and our development team is hard at work figuring out what does it look like to do a luncheon online. So stay tuned.
Absolutely. I see a lot of organizations entertaining that. And I think it's, you know, the arts is all about love of learning and creating no matter what. And this is the chance for us to step outside of how we traditionally have done things and say, what would it look like? So good on you, Tacoma Art Museum, for thinking, how do we do a virtual lunch here? So based upon that, one of my last questions for you is, what do you need from our audience, from our great citizens here in Tacoma?
We need folks to continue to financially support their arts organizations. That's incredibly important. Keep your memberships places. If you're not a member somewhere, become a member. Make sure you keep your tickets for those performances. So stay committed to supporting the arts organizations. And also please engage with us online with the new programs that we're putting out, the new content that we're putting out. Organizations are experimenting with a lot of different ways to connect with folks, and we're really curious to see what's resonating with folks. So stay engaged and let us know what you want to see from us.
Absolutely. Christina, it has been so great to spend Zoom time with you. And as I said to our previous guests, I can't wait to have you back in the studio. And you know, the first thing I'm going to do is give you a big hug.
Thank you, Amanda. It was so lovely to chat with you.
It was great to have you, and give my best to you and your team. And I hope to see you soon, and promise me that you will take care of you and yours.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
You are more than welcome. Well, that wraps up another great segment of CityLine. It is truly an honor and a privilege to zoom into your home. I think about you a lot. I hope that you are washing your hands, that you're eating good food, that you are being safe, and that you are socially distancing, but you are not emotionally isolating. Please reach out to those in your neighborhood, reach out to those in your family. We are in this all together. And as our wonderful Mayor Woodard says, we are compassionate Tacoma, and we will get through this. So thank you so much for joining in, and I'll see you next week, right back here in my kitchen on CityLine. Take care.
Tacoma's where you'll stay. Oh, you're from Seattle. Oh, you're from LA. Oh, you're from Chicago. But Tacoma's where you'll stay, yeah. Tacoma, that's my home. From the fire